Welcome to Rich Minded. Let's meet our first personality.
Adam was 24 years old. He had a steady job, a small apartment he was proud of, and a brand new credit card that had just arrived in the mail. He held it up, ran his thumb across the raised numbers, and felt something he hadn't expected. He felt like an adult, like he'd finally made it. He told himself the same thing most people tell themselves when they get their first card. I'll only use it for emergencies. That was the first mistake. Not because credit cards are evil, but because Adam had no idea how they actually worked. He started small: groceries one week, a tank of petrol the next, a dinner out with friends because it felt embarrassing to say no. The minimum payment that first month was $35. He paid it without thinking. Easy. Almost too easy. And that's exactly how the trap is designed. Here's something most people don't know about minimum payments. They are calculated by the bank to keep you in debt as long as possible. When you only pay the minimum, most of that payment goes toward interest, not toward reducing what you actually owe. The balance barely moves. Meanwhile, interest is being calculated on your remaining balance every single day. Not every month, every single day. Adam didn't know any of this. Nobody had told him, and the bank certainly wasn't going to bring it up. By month 3, he was using the card more freely. A new pair of shoes because his old ones were worn out. A weekend trip with friends because everyone else was going. A television for his apartment because he'd been meaning to get one. Each purchase had a reason. Each reason felt completely valid. And each time he swiped that card he felt nothing, because the money didn't feel real. That's the other thing nobody warns you about. Paying with a card, especially a credit card, genuinely feels different to handing over physical cash. Studies have shown people spend significantly more when paying by card because the brain doesn't register the loss in the same way. The pain of paying is reduced. And when the pain is reduced, the spending increases. Adam's balance hit $1,000 and he didn't panic. He hit $2,000 and told himself he'd sort it out soon. By month 8, the balance was sitting at $6,000 and growing faster than he realized because now the interest was compounding on a much larger number. Then he bought a laptop, $1,200, justified because he needed it for work. Then a weekend away, $400, justified because he was stressed and needed a break. Then some home furniture, $800, justified because he was building a life. The total crossed $9,000 on a Tuesday afternoon. He didn't know that yet because he had stopped opening his statements. The call started in month 12. Not aggressive at first, just reminders. Friendly voices asking if he'd like to discuss his account. Adam ignored them. Then the tone changed. The calls became more frequent, more formal. He started feeling sick when his phone rang from an unknown number. The anxiety moved in like a roommate he hadn't invited. It was there in the morning when he woke up. It followed him to work. It sat beside him at dinner. He couldn't sleep properly. He couldn't enjoy anything fully because underneath every good moment was the quiet knowledge that the debt was still there, growing, waiting. And then came the shame. The deep, heavy shame of feeling like he had done something stupid, like he should have known better. He didn't tell anyone, not his parents, not his closest friends. He carried it completely alone, which made it heavier than it needed to be. The turning point came on a Sunday morning in January. Adam was sitting at his kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, staring at a stack of unopened statements he had finally decided to face. He opened them one by one. He added everything up. The total was $9,200. Then he did something that changed everything. He looked up the minimum payment schedule on a debt calculator online. He typed in his balance, his interest rate, and his minimum payment amount. He hit calculate. The result said 27 years. 27 years to pay off a debt he had built in 14 months. And by the end of those 27 years, he would have paid nearly $18,000 in total, almost double what he had originally spent. He sat with that number for a long time, and something shifted in him. The shame didn't disappear, but it was joined by something stronger: anger. And then, determination. Adam made a list, not of excuses, not of regrets, a practical list. Every debt he had, every interest rate, every minimum payment. Total picture on one page. Most people never do this. They keep their debt vague and emotional because the specifics feel too frightening. But the specifics are where the power is. You cannot solve a problem you refuse to look at clearly. Then he cut up the card, physically cut it in half with kitchen scissors, and dropped it in the bin. Not because credit cards are the enemy, but because he knew himself well enough to know he couldn't trust himself with it yet. He looked at his monthly budget with fresh eyes. He found two things he could cut without his life falling apart. A streaming subscription he had forgotten he was even paying for, $14 a month, and his daily cafe stop on the way to work, an average of $11 a day, which was adding up to over $200 a month. Combined, that freed up approximately $180 every month, money that had been quietly disappearing that he could now redirect entirely to his debt. He chose the avalanche method. This means you list all your debts in order of interest rate, highest to lowest. You pay the minimum on everything except the highest interest debt. On that one, you throw every extra dollar you have. When it's paid off, you take everything you were paying on it and roll it into the next highest, like a snowball gathering speed going downhill. The avalanche method saves the most money in interest over time. It requires patience because you're targeting the most expensive debt first, not necessarily the smallest. But mathematically, it is the most efficient way to get out of debt. Adam stayed on his plan for 22 months. There were hard weeks. Weeks where something unexpected came up and he felt like he was losing ground. Weeks where his friends were doing things he said no to because the money needed to go to the debt. He kept going. In month 22, Adam made his final payment. He checked his balance. 0. He sat very still for a moment. Then he made himself a coffee, sat back down at the same kitchen table where he had once stared at 27 years of debt, and allowed himself to feel what he had earned. Here are the 5 lessons inside Adam's story. Lesson 1. Minimum payments are designed to keep you in debt for as long as possible. Always pay more than the minimum. Even a small amount extra makes a significant difference over time. Lesson 2. Credit card interest compounds daily on most cards. The longer a balance sits, the faster it grows. Time is your enemy when you carry debt, and your greatest ally when you save and invest. Lesson 3. List every debt clearly on one page. Total it up. Face the real number. Vague debt is emotionally paralyzing. Clear debt is a problem you can solve. Lesson 4. Small, consistent cuts beat big, dramatic sacrifices. Adam didn't overhaul his entire life. He found $180 a month. That was enough. Lesson 5. Shame keeps debt secret and secret debt grows. The moment Adam stopped hiding from his number and started facing it was the moment things changed. Adam's story isn't unique. Right now, millions of people are living exactly where he was, carrying a balance they avoid looking at, paying minimums, hoping it will somehow sort itself out. It won't sort itself out. But it can be sorted, and it usually starts with one Sunday morning and the courage to open the envelope. In our next episode, meet Bella, a single mother of 2 working full-time with almost nothing left at the end of every month. She didn't get a raise. She didn't take a second job. She found one simple habit that freed up $400 every single month. Subscribe so you don't miss her story.